All right, we are back talking college basketball, prime sports college basketball with Scotty Z and me, Greg DePalma. That means it's March, Scott.
It's March. Hey, look at that. I snuck up on me this year.
Yeah, well, it's awesome, isn't it? Even, especially this year, because we've talked the last few years about, well, do we really have parity? Yeah, to an extent, but then once you get into it,
Finally,
there's only like there's still two or three dominant teams. Now it's full blown parity where like 20 teams can win the championship and it wouldn't be a surprise.
this is finally. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for. Like you said, finally, your boys for the first time, probably barring a terrible first loss, are probably going to make it too. So my boys having a good year. Had a big win on Sunday, Maryland. So this is, I mean, talking about the last 5 years and including what you were just saying, where there are a number of teams from a number of different conferences that can win this thing. This is about as excited as I've been. And just for this week alone, for the conference tournaments that are really getting underway, the ACC gets underway today. The rest of the conference tournaments, it's just so exciting to be able to watch these games and know that there's a ton more on the bubble this year than ever before.
Well, we'll go through the bubble as we break down the conference tournaments that are still going on. And at the end, whatever's left over, bubble talk, we'll get into that. Let's start with the Big Ten, because everybody's been waiting for Michigan State to show how good they are. And they seem to be turning it on at the appropriate time. Not good for us Big Ten guys, me, Rutgers, you, Maryland. But still, Michigan State's Michigan State. They've got a premier player at point guard, which is a great position to have a premier player in the college game. They've got Izzo. So is this finally the year that Michigan State wins a championship for the Big Ten? It's been a while.
Well, wait. I mean, I think that there's other teams in the Big Ten that could do it, but I mean, this is the most classic Izzo season ever, where they struggled. Everybody was counting them out. They're done. This, that, and the other. Hey, now guess what? They're the 2 seed in the Big Ten. Probably going to be, barring a first game loss, they're going to be a 2 or 3, potentially. No, probably a 3, potentially in the NCAA tournament. They could work their way up to a 2 pretty easily if they win the Big Ten tournament.
Which is going to be crazy. I mean,
which
this
is going to be. I mean, look.
This is without a doubt the best conference in college basketball.
There's no question. There was, a week ago, there was the possibility. Now, granted, albeit very slim possibility, but there was still the possibility of a 6-way tie for first place. We ended up with a 3-way tie as Wisconsin just ate straight in the way they just quietly with the 1 seed, unbelievable. And so it's pretty exciting for them. Great job. Great coaching job by everybody at Wisconsin. That can't even considering they had a player who was a substantial player, quit the team halfway through the season, then to go on the run after him. Fantastic job by them. Illinois, really good comeback season. You can't say enough about Underwood and what he's done there.
Yes.
Honestly, unbelievable. Obviously, Pikel is going to probably be the coach of the conference, and rightfully so. Rutgers, it had some magical wins. They destroyed Maryland in that last game. And then obviously Penn State, Pat Chambers. And I mean, again, they slipped to the 6th seed. It's probably a bit of a disappointment for them to have fallen that far, but
they weren't. But they're where they're supposed to be. They were never a top 15
Correct.
team in college basketball. They just peaked too soon.
Correct, and they're going to be fighting for their lives in their first matchup if Indiana beats Nebraska. And Indiana is one of the bigger bubble teams that people are looking at. Indiana, Purdue are the 2 teams. I can't see them both getting in. But
yeah, Purdue.
One of them
don't you think Purdue's got to go? I mean, I think Purdue has to get to at least the championship game. They're 16 and 15. I mean, come on.
But they've got good wins. So for them, it's going to be tricky, But again, they won at Iowa recently. They beat Indiana both times. They beat Iowa both times. Beat Wisconsin. Beat Michigan State. Those are all, big quad one wins, which is what the committee is looking for. They beat Virginia earlier in the season. Now that's not as good of a win as
What's their
everybody else.
tournament like? What's their road like?
Well, Ohio State and then Michigan State. So
they start with Ohio State?
They start with Ohio State. So
that would be a good win, and that gets them to the semis.
That would be a good what gets them to the quarters. They're the 10 seed. They play the 7. They would play.
They're
Michigan.
in the play-in game.
No, the Big Ten's got 14 teams, so there's 2 play-in games.
11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so they were right there. Okay, so who they play first round then?
They play Ohio State.
Oh, that's a first round game, Ohio. That's a tough one. Okay.
It's a second round game.
Okay, well, for them, it's first round. Okay.
Correct. It's their first game, and then the winner of that game floods to the Michigan State quarterfinal.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. If they beat Ohio State and Michigan State, then
they're in the quarterfinal. They're securely in the NCAA tournament.
Then I would give it to them. Okay.
They're securely in the NCAA tournament. And now on the other side, on the bottom half of that little couplet, is Indiana in a play-in game against Nebraska, the 11-14.
You better not lose that one.
If they're done.
They're done. That. Yeah.
And then that's what I'm saying. So that game feeds to Penn State for the nightcap.
And I think they got to win that one too.
They probably do, because then the winner of that goes to is Maryland. And so again, you would expect the only top 4 team that I think is going to really struggle to get to the semifinals is Illinois. They've got to go through Iowa. Iowa's the 5, Illinois is the 4.
Yeah.
Both Michigan or Rutgers could definitely beat Wisconsin, but the way Wisconsin's playing right now doesn't seem possible. So I would expect to see, a Wisconsin versus Iowa, Illinois, and then granted, Maryland hasn't won a Big Ten tournament game in 4 years.
Aren't you a little concerned, being a Maryland guy, that they did start to run out of gas, not a deep rotation? It seemed on the court that, you could say it's an excuse, but when you don't have a deep rotation, you're going to wear down. Now, you'll be able to recharge, a lot of days off, especially if they don't go deep into the tournament.
Don't play till Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And so their first game is looking like either Penn State or Indiana.
That's not bad.
Indiana is the game that Maryland won. That was what started their whole run. Jalen Smith got into it with the fans at Indiana. So that's one thing to think about in that game. And Maryland really lost a bad game at Penn State. So unfortunately, this is the year Maryland didn't get Penn State at home. But of course, I'm worried as a Maryland fan. As I just said, they haven't won a Big Ten tournament game since 2016. So gonna have to, if they lose that first game.
And that'll be an Indiana crowd.
If it's Indiana, sure, because the game's in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But either way, Penn State, Maryland struggles away from Comcast Center, Xfinity Center. But I think that the way they played on Sunday against Michigan, they played as good of basketball as they played all year. If you get one of Ayala or Wiggins in a rhythm, that's just a huge thing. Just a huge confidence boost for the team. But again, they got to get through Michigan State and Wisconsin or whoever to win the Big Ten tournament.
Odds-wise,
this is going to be a great tournament. Is all I can say. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes.
Big Ten Network's got their hands full for the first 10 games. CBS has got the semifinals and the championship. Can't wait to watch this thing. Considering flying out Saturday if Maryland makes the semis. Consider.
All right. Well, with Wisconsin getting double the money over Michigan State, I would probably, if I were going to put any money in that conference, which I probably won't, because anybody can do anything in that conference, I would probably say the one that would make sense to me would be Wisconsin, because not only how well they play at the end of the year, but 6-1. That's pretty decent for the fact that Michigan State's 3-1. So I think predicting who's going to win this tournament is just nuts. So there's other tournaments we're going to get into. We have a better shot. But if I was going to put money into it, I'd put money on Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin, like I said, hottest team in college basketball right now, and they've just dominated. Nobody even thought them. Put it this way, 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago even, it looked like Maryland was a sure thing to outright win the Big Ten. On comes Wisconsin, on comes Michigan State. They're both playing great basketball. I wouldn't bet on Maryland to win the Big Ten tournament. I do like Wisconsin if they're getting double the money over Michigan State. But obviously Tom Izzo, this is his time of year, baby. This is him. And you got Cassius Winston playing his last his last leg of college basketball in East Lansing, and they're playing really good basketball right now.
But we also
and
know what's most important, and that's winning the national championship. So
correct. And Wisconsin is a lot further away from doing that than either Michigan State or Maryland, in my opinion.
All right, the Big 12 and Kansas does it again, but really this is the first time in a while that they are a legitimate top seed overall for the tournament. They have been really strong most of the year, and they've been just as good, if not better, away from home. So they've been very good, and that doesn't. I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't be beat in a tournament situation. There are a couple of teams, but Baylor might be more than likely the only team that can beat them.
Oklahoma's been the big surprise. Really streaming. They're playing great basketball. Kansas. They get this tournament is in Kansas City, so it's basically a home tournament for them every year for the Big 12. Yeah, it's a 35-minute drive.
I mean,
it's every single year it's been in Kansas City for as long as I can remember. This is a tournament that will finish up Saturday night on ESPN. The games with Baylor have been very interesting.
Yep.
So I would love to see that again. There's no question about that, and I think that we have a pretty good shot of seeing that. In terms of locks, Baylor, West Virginia's done enough. Even though they're the 6th seed, they've just played bad the last week or so. They've done enough. Texas Tech, Oklahoma, both in my book. Oklahoma.
I don't think Texas Tech is in if they lose to Texas. I'm not saying they're out, but they're in trouble if they lose to Texas.
I don't know.
Well, that would be a second straight loss to Texas, and Texas is on the bubble.
Texas is on the bubble, but Texas is one of those teams that have shown me some good stuff recently. But Texas Tech, you're right. They've lost 4 straight. That's a problem. Probably would go a long way beating Texas, but they've got, in my opinion, enough big wins. They beat West Virginia. They beat Texas earlier. They beat Oklahoma. They've competed very closely to both Baylor and Kansas, losing by 3 points in both those games. So it's tough. It's going to be tough. But again, this is going to be another good conference tournament that should end up 1 versus 2. It should end up 1 versus 2. And obviously, we've seen what Baylor and Kansas can do all season. And that's the game we want to see.
And Oklahoma who are they playing?
Oklahoma is a 3 seed playing West Virginia as a 6.
Oklahoma is another team like the Texas game. They better win. If they don't win, they got to wait. I'm not going to say Oklahoma's a shoe-in.
They're not a shoe-in.
But they're a dangerous bubble team. They got to win, just to make them safe.
To be safe, correct. I agree. To be safe. But if you look at what they've done, and in the last, granted, other than the loss to Texas, they did win at West Virginia and beat Texas Tech.
That was huge. Absolutely. The West Virginia win was huge.
Yeah, and
they beat them twice.
They beat them twice, and they had a buzzsaw of having to unfortunately play at Kansas and Baylor back to back right before that. So they lost both those games, but we're not lucky enough, but we're good enough to bounce back, beat Texas Tech, beat West Virginia.
All right.
So that's where I'm thinking right now. I think Oklahoma should be in. My opinion, they should be in.
Yeah.
Any team that gets the 3 seed in the Big 12, which is going to have 5-6 teams, in my opinion, should be in. But again, West Virginia's in, and they're the 6th seed.
Well, we'll see. At this point, they're between 3 and 5 or 6 teams. I kind of agree with you. Look, I think Texas Tech's going to beat Texas. That'll move Texas Tech in, Texas out. And if Oklahoma wins the game, their first game, they're in, and then you've got 5 teams.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I think. Now, Oklahoma State, who are they playing?
Oklahoma State has Iowa State.
Oh, and then after that?
Kansas.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So that's what we call we've got work to do.
Yeah, that was. They got to win the tournament, but they were the scariest of the bottom teams.
Sure. if they somehow beat Kansas, uh, which shouldn't happen.
Hey, if they beat Kansas, they could win the whole thing.
Well, if they beat Kansas, then that's a nice little track to maybe losing to Baylor in the championship. But hey, who knows?
All right.
This is what March is for. You never really know.
ACC, Duke, Louisville, Florida State. They're pretty much the three favorites there. Virginia's come on strong at the end of the year, but Virginia is the type of team we've seen it. We saw the negatives a couple of years ago, the positives last year. But even the way they won last year, the way that their style is, it's just impossible for them to win like that again. And you've already seen the last 5 or 6 games, all the games, like 2-point games that they've won. You just can't keep doing that. You're not going to survive 2 years in a row in the NCAA tournament winning games like that.
No. This Virginia team doesn't scare me. They were fighting with the passion of 1,000 suns last year after losing in the first round as a 1 seed to UMBC. I don't see it happening. This is the worst ACC we've seen in 20 years. North Carolina, an absolute sham, even though they competed with Duke for both games. It's just not the year for Virginia.
Does NC State get in?
NC State's got a.
Who are they playing?
So. I think so. They've got the winner of Wake Forest Pitt.
Oh, who's after that?
Wake Forest Pitt is today. Then it's Duke, who they beat. If they beat Wake Forest,
well, there you go. Beat Duke.
Well, I think they're in.
They
with
could
a
be
win
in, but beat Duke and you're in.
With a win. Yeah. Well, so I mean, look, I think the committee has always shown a little ACC bias. I can't imagine there just being 4 ACC teams. It just doesn't seem right. But yeah, you're right. Beat Duke, you're for sure in, and you're probably climbing up to like an 8-9 versus maybe a play in 11 right now.
Well, how about some long shots here between Notre Dame, NC State, Clemson, North Carolina, Syracuse? Who would you go with? All between 25 and 28 to 1. Who do you trust the most to make a run?
Oh boy.
I mean, would it be the Tar Heels? Could they do that? They could, couldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're healthy. They're getting healthy. You still got Roy Williams. It's crazy to see them as a 14 seed. I mean, I just never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, right.
But
I don't know. Syracuse, Jim Boeheim.
So here's my thing with them. And Cole Anthony. In terms of them, they've got to get through Louisville. If they had to get through Virginia, I would feel a little bit better. Yeah. But having to get through Louisville.
Who goes through Virginia?
Notre Dame or Boston College. And
Notre Dame.
Look, I don't think Notre Dame isn't this. They're not prepared to beat a Virginia. They're not. This is not an offensive team, and you got to be an offensive team.
All right, so pick a team. Who not NC State, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Clemson, Syracuse.
Clemson.
Okay.
They could score, but they're not going to beat Florida State. But if I had to pick one,
does Brownell come back next year?
That's a good question.
This is just mediocrity every year with Clemson. It is. I mean, are they okay with that?
They're a football school.
That's the point. So I guess the answer is yeah, they're okay with it.
I think you're okay if you make the NCAA tournament 3 out of 7 years for Clemson.
AAC, and I will say this.
Oh, boy,
out of all of the tournaments, this is my favorite sleeper.
Really?
Go ahead. I'll give you one guess, and I know you're going to guess it.
Memphis.
That's not a sleeper. They're 5-1.
Temple.
No, I wouldn't go that crazy. UConn.
Oh,
yes, a 13-1.
UConn, the 5 seed.
They've been playing they've been playing their best ball the last month of the season. This is they've been beating some pretty good teams. They've lost to some good teams close. 13-1 to win the conference tournament.
13-1. They've got to win 4 games. They got to get through Wichita State and Cincinnati.
That's okay. I know. I mean, come on, really? Who cares? I mean, those teams. This is a very down year in the AAC.
Did you not hear when you said the AAC? I chuckled
Yeah.
because this conference has taken a massive
Yes.
downswing. Just oh boy,
So who makes it
massive
besides Houston? Does anybody else make it?
in Cincinnati.
You think Cincinnati? Where do you think they are? Because they're strict. They are a bubble team on the bubble.
I think they're in as a play-in 11, or if they win the conference tournament, they're a 10.
Who are they playing? First game.
Their first game is between UCF and USF.
And then who do they beat? And if they win,
Wichita State or your boys.
that
at
could be a
UConn.
play-in game right there. Cincinnati,
Yeah.
Wichita State.
Yeah,
Could be.
I think Cincinnati's in. I think this conference is going to get 2 bids. It's a decent enough league to get 2 bids.
All right. What if Cincinnati wins the tournament?
This whole conference shifted when James Wiseman was ruled ineligible. By the way,
that's
this went from being a
typical.
conference with a potential 1 seed or a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Now Memphis is the 6th seed in their own tournament.
Typical.
What was your question?
It doesn't happen to like Kentucky or Duke.
No chance.
They'll figure out a
chance.
way to make sure those kids stay on the court.
Of course they will.
Okay, so if Cincinnati wins the tournament, still only 2 teams make it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. If Cincinnati wins the tournament, that means they beat Wichita. Wichita State is a bubble team.
Absolutely.
They've got to beat Cincinnati, in my opinion, to get through. I don't think beating UConn or Tulane is going to be good enough, especially – I mean, UConn has been playing good basketball. They've got to beat Cincinnati. And if Wichita State beats Cincinnati and then loses to Houston, could be a 1-bid league. But
No, I think the Wichita State-Cincinnati winner's in, and the loser may be out.
I think so too. I think that Cincinnati, if Wichita State beats Cincinnati, that's the only chance for a 3-bid league. That's the only chance. I don't think Cincinnati beating Wichita State makes it a 3-bid league. I think that Wichita State beating Cincinnati makes it a 3-bid.
Yeah.
Could
More than likely, yeah.
That's the only chance for it to be a 3-bid league.
All right, Big East, and very competitive as usual. You love that.
Big East is tough this year.
Yep.
Big East.
Villanova's got company with Seton Hall and Creighton. I love Creighton this year. I think they're a very interesting team. Yeah, they're a fun team to watch. Yes. And
the Big East has been look, for a league that only has 10 teams compared to the Big Ten's got 14. These have been the 2 most competitive, teams knocking each other off nightly. Creighton is for sure surging right now. I still think it's close. I still think Seton Hall, in my opinion, with the senior experience and they have 2 incredible bigs that block 4 or 5 shots a game each. I still think Seton Hall is the best team in this tournament, in this conference.
Tough to lose on your home court to win the championship outright.
Correct. I agree, but I think that'll light a little fire as well. And now, I mean, look, they've got Marquette, who is another team.
Yeah, I know, but do you think Marquette? Who does Marquette play?
Seton Hall.
First game.
9:30 on Thursday night.
I'll tell you what. Marquette's probably in, but if they don't win that game against Seton Hall, they may have to sweat it out.
They're gonna, if they don't win that game, unless they don't, or if they don't compete, if they get blown out of the water. Then they're gonna have to sweat it out regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But look, they lost to Seton Hall at Seton Hall by 14, and then by 12 on their home court. So this is their time, man. They've got to show what they can do. They've lost 6 of their last 7, so they're struggling. Look, it's hard for the committee to keep the leading scorer who's on a power conference team in the country out. It's hard to keep a Marcus Howard out. But look, if they lose, by 12, 15 plus, they might just be flat out.
Where does Howard go in the draft, by the way? Do you know? Have you seen any projections yet?
No, I don't focus on the draft till after all this stuff.
So you haven't heard anything?
Look, he's got a Trae Young type, he's a mid first round pick, if I had to guess.
Okay.
He's not he might be a back end lottery, but he's definitely a first round pick.
As far as Xavier, who do they play?
DePaul and then Nova. So they got to win both those games.
Yeah, there's another team. Xavier's in much more critical shape than Marquette. So
Xavier's got to beat Nova in the quarterfinal. Otherwise, there's no chance.
Okay. And by the way, Butler, even though the coaching sooner or later you get to the point where you can't just keep finding all these great coaches. I think that's where Butler is right now. They have an okay coach. They just don't have one of these great coaches, but they've got a great player. Not a Marcus Howard, I'm going to score 30 points a game player, but a guy, Baldwin, that in the clutch can come up with the big shots.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And look at the two coaches they've had to replace, man. I mean, like you said, you can't just keep replacing these huge name coaches year after year. But no, Butler's clearly safely in and Butler is a team that could. I kind of like to maybe. Again, this is a conference where everybody's been beating everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if Butler knocks off Providence. They can beat Creighton and wins this thing. And if they win this thing, they might find themselves a 3 seed. Right now, they're on the 4 or 5.
5 teams have a shot to win this conference, top 5.
5,
and that includes Providence.
And those are 5 teams. Yeah, oh yeah, that's
great job by Providence to end the season to work their way into the tournament. So.
Yeah. Yep. And those are 5 teams that are safely in. Marquette is the closest on the bubble with the 6. Probably should beat Seton Hall if they beat. No, I'm not saying they're going to, but if they want to be for sure
beat Seton Hall,
they should beat Seton Hall. And if they do beat Seton Hall, I think they're very safe.
A10 and Dayton, of course, has dominated the league. Bubble teams, though, include Rhode Island and Richmond.
Dayton.
What?
Dayton's got to win the conference tournament, by the way. If they want to be a 1 seed. Right now they're the 4th.
Oh, Dayton's got to win the conference.
They've got to win the conference if they want to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They've got to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure. I don't think. Richmond, based on the way they played, better than Rhode Island down the stretch. Best shot to get a bubble, get in without winning the championship. So who do they play? Do they avoid? When do they play Dayton?
In the championship, they're the 2 seed in the conference. It is good, and they've got to make it there. They've got to beat Rhode Island.
Make it, and they probably are in.
Yes, but they also
don't get blown out.
They can't. No, but they also could use just a tad bit of help.
Oh yeah, they need help, but
a tad bit of help from Texas Tech, one of those.
But that's the thing. All the bubble teams aren't going to win. That's why you do your job. Chances are some of these other teams are not going to do their job. It's just the way that it is. It's just correct. St. Louis might be the best sleeper.
And obviously, and we already have seen, Utah State. That's already one bubble team potentially that's gone. Because of the way
they might have made it, but they clinched it. So that's a bubble spot gone. Yes.
That's a big spot. That's a bubble spot gone.
Who does St. Louis play?
St. Louis plays the winner of St. Bonaventure and George Mason St. Dayton.
Oh, they get Dayton in the semis.
Forget it.
No, but I'll tell you right now, to me, in my opinion, I think St. Louis has the best chance to beat Dayton over Rhode Island and Richmond.
That's possible.
So
I wouldn't rule it out, but
they're 19-1. See, I look at a team like St. Louis and see 19-1.
What's Dayton like? 1 to 10?
No, they're 1 to 3. I see a team like St. Louis, and I see 19-1 to win the tournament means 19-1 to beat Dayton, and that's pretty good. I'm getting 20-1 odds to beat Dayton, and I know they're good, but they ain't that good. So this is one basketball game. So I think St. Louis may not be a bad long shot play. Last 2, Pac-12, Oregon and Arizona the favorites. Colorado has just been awful down the stretch. Nobody's going to take them to win this tournament.
Big time disappointment. Colorado's been down the stretch.
And how can you not love Mick Cronin and UCLA? And this is the thing. People are talking about UCLA bubble team, and I get it, but when you have a team playing as good as UCLA has down the stretch, I'm not looking at CETs and BEIs and all that other stuff. I'm just looking at the vision test. The vision test clearly tells me they're a tournament team.
Yeah, I agree. uh, division test definitely agrees with you. There's no question there. The question is how many teams from this league are going to make it. It's crazy. You said Arizona was
Arizona,
the second
Oregon,
highest?
Colorado are the locks.
They're locks. But Arizona's got to win an extra game to win. They flubbed their way into a 5 seed.
Yeah, I don't care about seeds right now. So USC, UCLA, Stanford, Arizona State, those are the bubble teams.
Stanford's got a lot to do. Stanford's got a lot to do. UCLA, to me, should be pretty close.
What are the
to
matchups?
So UCLA's got the winner of Stanford Cal.
Well,
so
there you go. UCLA Stanford.
Yeah, they got to beat Stanford. I
don't know if UCLA. See, that's the thing. Does UCLA have to win a game? It'll help, but I don't know if they have to.
It'll go a long way.
Absolutely.
It'll go a long way.
Stanford can't lose the game.
No, Stanford can't lose.
Yeah, UCLA.
Arizona State cannot lose to Colorado. So,
and that's a good matchup considering how bad Colorado's played. Good for Arizona State. And I like Arizona State as a tournament team. I think they should get in even if they lose that game, but you win, you're in.
Arizona State's got one of my favorite point guards in the country, Remy Martin. Dude's just an absolute baller. I love watching him play. I think that this should be a 5-bid league.
USC? Who are they playing?
USC has got Arizona or Washington, so probably Arizona. But I think
watch out for Washington.
Watch out for Washington. I think USC is pretty safely in.
I agree.
That big win against UCLA was it last week or the week before? Pretty good.
So you're going to say 5 teams?
5 teams.
All right.
5 teams.
I'm going to say 6.
6. What's your 6th?
Well, I'm going to go USC, UCLA, and Arizona State.
Okay.
And then the big sleeper of this conference is Washington, the way that they've played recently. And we know how talented they were when the season began. And freshmen are now no longer kind of freshmen. So they're dangerous.
Unfortunately, they've got to get through Arizona in the first game. So
who they just beat?
Who they did beat, but they got to do it again, and then they got to get through USC and Oregon.
Yeah, I don't think they can make that run.
No, but I don't think they're geared to make it. But they've definitely,
Who do you like who do you like to win it?
Peyton Pritchard, man. I love Oregon. I love their.
Yeah, I like their national championship hopes as well.
I like their national championship, but I love their run to get to the Pac-12 tournament, or they get to the Pac-12 championship. So so I like Oregon. I've always loved the way they play, and again, this is Peyton Pritchard, and this is his last hurrah. Much like I said with Cassius Winston. So
all right,
SEC. He's going to fight tooth and nail every single game.
SEC, and you have Kentucky, Auburn, Florida as the favorites. I don't know why Florida is a favorite because they can't win any big games down the stretch. I think they're a fraud. Auburn, nobody expected them to be this competitive after losing everybody, but they could be a dangerous team. Kentucky's Kentucky. Out of the top 3, give me a team that can win it. Would it be Tennessee?
Mm-hmm. Out of the top 3.
Besides the top 3, would you go with LSU, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, or South Carolina?
Oh, I can go with LSU?
If you were sure, why not?
I
don't think there's such a clear, easy team to pick.
I think LSU is the clear 3rd best team in the conference.
Over Florida.
Clear.
And Florida's 3-1 to win the tournament, and LSU's 6-1.
That's fine.
Yeah, I agree. I said Florida's a fraud. So I don't know what they're doing at 3-1.
LSU is a really, really. Here's the problem with LSU is they're not very deep, but their starting 5 is, in my opinion, as good as anybody in the entire country.
All right,
okay?
So that's going to be a potential bracket sleeper for you next week.
Correct. Okay. And look, LSU, just happened to have a couple of bad losses down the stretch. They gave up 100
Yeah,
points.
they did not
they
play
gave
their
up
best
100
basketball down the last month of the year.
Right. Well, they gave up 100 points to Arkansas last week, so that certainly didn't help. But you look at this starting five: Skylar Mays, Javonte Smart, Emmett Williams, Darius Days, and Trendon Watford. Any of those guys on any night can go for 20 points. Trendon Watford he's got to pick it up a little bit more and show me a little bit more. But this team is really, really good. Skylar Mays is one of the most clutch players in college basketball over the last 2 years. And the dude just is. He could score 30 whenever he wants, but he's got a great supporting cast. But like I mentioned, once you get out of those five guys, it drops off tremendously. So
all
you
right.
got, all five of those guys average double figures.
Who would you take to make a run between Arkansas, Alabama, and South Carolina?
Well, my roommate is a South Carolina guy, so he'd like me to say them. But at this point, Arkansas's got to go through South Carolina as the 11th seed. You know what? South Carolina is going to have to beat LSU. If they beat LSU, they're a really athletic team, South Carolina. That's one thing that bodes in their positive. They're really athletic. They can run with anybody. They've just not got the clutch gene in them at sometimes. But who was the other one? Arkansas,
Alabama.
And who? Alabama. Alabama's got to get through Tennessee and Kentucky. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
So South Carolina only because they don't have to. Again, it's hard for Arkansas's got to win 5 games to win this tournament, including getting through South Carolina, LSU, and Auburn, and then Kentucky. Not going to happen.
Okay.
So
South Carolina, they got the best shot of the 3.
The best shot at the 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next week we'll have our breakdown of the bracket like we do every year. So it should be fun trying to predict this year's tournament. So we'll have our picks. We'll go through each region. We'll have the odds. We'll do our sleepers, our bracket busters. We're going to have probably have multiple shows because we're not going to be able to fit it all in 30 minutes. So we're going to have a lot of programs talking college hoops between now and the Final Four. So, Scott.
Shout out to the West Coast Conference. They didn't get any love for us today, but probably 3 teams, definitely 2 locks, probably 3 teams in the
I am sick
tournament.
of St. Mary's.
You're
beat Gonzaga and get in. But they never beat anybody every year, and then they get these at-large bids, and then they're out in 1 game.
Yeah, well, they're the bubble team, BYU, absolute lock. Obviously, Gonzaga is a 1 seed. I think St. Mary's is probably a lock too. 3
they
teams.
Probably
West Coast
are.
Conference.
Yes.
3 teams, West Coast Conference. St. Mary's might end up playing in a playing game though.
And who did they beat? They didn't even beat Gonzaga unless they win tonight.
Would you at least be satisfied if St. Mary's was in a play-in 11? Would that satisfy you?
If they were going to get in, sure.
They did just look. They just tooth and nailed their way past BYU. Tooth and nailed.
Yeah, that's okay. Just beat Gonzaga. You had 3 chances to beat them.
What's not to like about
3.
Jordan Ford? Dude plays 40 minutes a game.
3 chances to beat Gonzaga. Beat them once. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
All right. Well, that's hey.
All right. We'll talk. We'll talk all about it.
That's a fun game to be watching.
All right. Enjoy. You'll be up watching. I'll record it and watch it in the morning.
I will always be watching.
All right, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week, Scott.
You got it. Hopefully Maryland is not screwed by the time. Hopefully they're